Cool. Yeah. So I think the first thing we can talk about is like, talk to me a little bit about your journey, kind of like
Uh-huh.
how you got to where you are today. Like also talk about your experience abroad. I think you're right in saying you studied outside of Cambodia, right?
Right.
So maybe just share a bit more about that to begin with.
Right. So I think I started off like at like 15 actually,
15.
early Jan, starting selling shoes. Because I had a brother who was in the US. He reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, you want to sell shoes?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." So I
Mm.
just started a page with a friend at the time, and then like we just started off like posting like images about shoes that we were interested in. Back then, I was very into basketball.
Mm.
That's kind of where I got the whole like kick of just starting like shoes and everything. And then afterwards, it kind of just like grew. I think up to like 2016, and then the page got suspended. Had to create a new page, and then everything was okay up until I had to move to the US in 2017, and that's when I was studying for my bachelor's in
Why
mechanical
did you
engineering.
have to move? What was the reason?
I was college.
Oh, you had
College, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
at college. So like,
Okay.
graduated in 2017. Immediately right after graduation, like a month after, I had to file for the visa application to get to the US because
Mm.
if I didn't make it by what was it, August, I wouldn't be able to attend school until the next semester. So I had to rush that shit out.
Yeah.
Um,
Where in the US were you?
California.
Oh, nice.
I was in Long Beach. I was in Long
Yeah.
Beach. Yeah. So I got that out, and then in 2017, I went to college for mechanical engineering.
Mm.
I graduated in 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, and ever since then, I've never used my degree.
Yeah, I was saying mechanical engineering to kind of marketing and fashion kind of stuff. That's an interesting shift. Why
Yeah.
did you like what made you want to do mechanical engineering? What was the
Well, I didn't know if I liked mechanical engineering. I just kept convincing myself that it was like a thing I should do, and I could potentially fall back onto it.
right?
So within the 4 years, I tried to convince myself like, hey, this is somewhat interesting. I
Mm.
should continue to study this until I finish up, and then like let's see what happens. But the reality was that like in the U.S., if you were an international student, it's harder for you to get a job right after graduation, especially in my field. Because like for me, I never got any hands-on experience during
Mm.
my 4 years within the U.S. for my major. So like I didn't have any experience. If people were to hire me, it would cost them a lot more as well because they'd have to figure out like the whole visa process for me as well and sponsor me.
Mm.
So hiring me would be a disadvantage to their company because they're spending way more on me, and I'm not as talented as any other engineer out there because I don't have any hands-on experience. So I was at a lose-lose situation. But the lucky thing was that like within the 4 years I was in the US, I was playing around with different things. Back then, we were definitely focusing on shoes. So
Mm.
sneakers, we were buying sneaker releases and everything like that. And then we were also getting into fashion because of things like Supreme, things like Bape, stuff like that. And we were just constantly getting influenced by LA culture.
Mm.
So at that time, probably like 2018, my brother and I, we wanted to start a streetwear brand, and we called it Uncommon. And that's kind of where we started learning more about streetwear culture as a whole. And we also started learning how to design from that, and just like pushing out content however we could
Mm.
back in the day, because we didn't really have any idea what content really was at the time, especially back then when like videos weren't necessarily being pushed out the way that it is now. You know, TikTok wasn't really a thing. Short form videos weren't really a thing. So we were just trying to figure things out, trying to figure out like what works, what didn't.
Mm.
Obviously, there was like no framework of what we did. We just, fuck it, just figure it out. This thing looks cool. Let's just push it out and see what happens. That's kind of our,
Yeah, move forward and break
yeah,
things.
move
Yeah.
forward, figure it out
Yeah.
afterwards. Yeah. And then like, I think the moment I graduated, I gave myself two options. Either one, I tried to figure out if I could find a job and stay here, or two,
And what year did you graduate?
2021,
Wow,
2021.
so right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, right in the middle of COVID. So I
Yeah.
decided like, yo, if I were to stay in the US right now, I'd be fucked. Like
Mm.
there's barely any upside for me. And even if I did get a job, I could probably stay for another 2, 3 years. And if I don't get a green card by then my whole career is fucked. And I don't want to gamble on that alone.
Mm.
So I figured like, might as well I just go back, sell some shoes and try to figure things out. And at that time, I think post COVID, I think we experienced the most growth when it came to the shoe business.
Mm.
And that's when I realized, okay, I could fall back onto this and I'd be somewhat comfortable and I don't have to worry too much about like my career as an engineer. So I just dropped it. Yeah.
Mm.
And then probably like a year after I came back, me and my brother, we were just sitting in our room, trying to figure out what to do with the name KDMV. And then
Tell me how the name comes about,
oh,
because
my
a lot
brother
of
like
people
so
in
the
Khmer,
actual
right?
meaning is
Yeah.
Cambodia Digital. Well, we figured this out
Yeah.
after me and my brother discussed it. But obviously
Yeah.
everyone knows what KDMV
Yeah.
means. Like you don't have to be a smart ass about it
Yeah.
and shit. But like yeah, there's definitely that meaning. We didn't figure out the actual meaning up until like that talk I had with my brother later on that we wanted to start a digital agency. So we were thinking about starting like a digital agency because like we were just like seeing all this content from people, just about like social media marketing agencies, and we thought it was interesting. I felt like if I could start one, I would love to learn about it and figure out like how things work. That's honestly just the purpose of it. I've never had any background when it comes to 9 to 5 or any like corporate setting. So I was like, maybe I should start this, figure things out, and hopefully like I could be somewhat successful with it. So I had a talk with my brother about what to name it. And we were thinking about the word KDMV because he made a shoe that had the word KDMV on it. It was inspired by some Air Force CPFMs. It's like a Nike collab. It had the word CPFM on it, and we just changed it to KDMV because we thought it was funny. And it went viral. The shoe sold out. But yeah, so
Well, I think that's half the trick, is like it's like something that's memorable, right?
right. But then like we didn't figure out like that would be connected to an agency up until like we were just thinking like how can we name the agency something that's cool? And we were like KDMV, and we were like Cambodia Digital Marketing Ventures. Makes sense. So I was
Right.
like, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like we just designed a logo, and nothing really took off. Honestly, like I didn't even really initiate on the idea for like about 2 months because all of a sudden like we made the logo, we put it on the page, we didn't do anything for a month, and then all of a sudden the logo got viral out of nowhere. Suddenly the logo got viral, probably in like December of like 2020, I would say 2022, and I was like, oh shit, let's just start something. Why not? That's what we did. Yeah, and that's what happened, and that's how KDMV started. Yeah.
And you also talked about like uncommon. Like, can you also talk a bit more about that? Because I feel like we can you just share a bit more about that brand and like what you've done with that?
Yeah, so Uncommon is a streetwear brand started by my brother and I, but he currently handles it all now.
Okay.
I wouldn't say there's like an actual definition for it. It's just like we try to find ways to think about like streetwear outside of what is considered cool here in Cambodia.
Yeah.
And we try to figure out approaches from like different countries like the US and such to kind of create a design or create a piece of clothing that's a bit unique. Yeah, I don't know if there's like an actual definition for like the brand itself, but it's just like what we perceive as cool, what we think we would be able to wear, what we would want to wear, and just share it with other people. Yeah, so that's kind of how the brand is, I guess.
And where are you currently selling that, like those products? Like, is it mostly focused on Cambodia, or is it some other country?
It's all Cambodia.
It's all
Cambodia. I think we tried to reach out to connect with the Cambodian audience in the US. We actually succeeded one time with a collaboration with Loktasan Sismot. He's like a very famous singer in I think the 50s or something. Yeah. But the problem was that we weren't able to accept payments properly because we didn't have an LLC. And
Right.
yeah, that was probably the issue. But I think right now we're trying to find ways where we can sell to a global audience. I think we're working on finding ways to set up LLC somewhere so that we can start accepting international payments properly. And then we're probably going to connect it with the 3PL somewhere in Asia to ship it out to the US and such. Because that's how it worked back then, was that we had a 3PL in China who was able to send out our products to people in the US and stuff, and it costed like $10. And I was like, okay, let's do that. Yeah. It's just that the legality or part of it wasn't really set up back then. We were just trying to see if it works or not. And at the time, I think we sold like 50 t-shirts to a US based audience. Yeah, so it was not bad.
Right. Cool. And what would you say your experience in the US, like how did that like kind of shape how you approach doing business like in Cambodia, or like being a founder? Like what because obviously California's got like Silicon Valley and all that kind of startup culture. What would you say that kind of...
Well, the thing is, like, I was never really within... Oh, the thing is, I was never really within that space of like, 9 to 5 or like startup culture or anything like that. I was in like low-key the ghetto. I was in the
Yeah,
ghetto.
yeah.
So I mean, not like
In Long Beach, right?
I was
Which
in
is like,
Signal Hill, which was close to Long Beach.
okay.
Signal Hill is probably like a better neighborhood than Long Beach, but like the majority of the things I did, like business-wise, was within Long Beach.
Okay.
So I was pretty much in the ghetto. So the thing that I learned the most when it came to the US was just learning how to hustle,
Right.
and hustling like by whatever the fuck I could do just to make money at the time. So the thing where it really struck me was actually during COVID, because when COVID happened, I had to shut down my operations when it came to shoes, because like people weren't necessarily able to ship stuff out to Cambodia anymore, and I was like stuck. I was like, fuck, my income's fucked. And at the time, I was working as a waiter, and I was making like 2 shifts a week, something like that. And it wasn't doing too well. And with COVID, it didn't really help either. But at the time, when COVID happened, everything went to shit. The economy was not doing so well at the time. But
And California,
in
like really
California,
locked down, right?
yeah, California really locked down, which gave opportunity to different industries. Which is funny because people were locked indoors. They weren't supposed to go outside, so they had to find ways to cope with that being indoors, right? So people moved to gaming. They bought Switches, they bought Nintendo Switches, they bought PS5s, and they bought other stupid shit just to make themselves like feel occupied. And at the same time, I think the US started pushing out stimulus checks too. So people were getting some random money and they tried to figure out what to do with it. Obviously, a lot of people weren't really smart about it, but
Right.
yeah, at that time,
Throw it all into meme coins.
no, they weren't even investing it. They were just like buying stupid shit,
Yeah,
yeah, because they had free money.
Yeah.
So I capitalized on that type of market because at the time I was lining up at fucking Target in the morning just to buy Nintendo Switches and selling it for like $100 profit a pop.
There you go.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
basically What's that term people use for like people that likes to like sell shit, like upcharge on prices
Yeah,
and shit.
I mean, guess secondhand seller or like that would be like the eBay days, right?
Yeah, similar to that.
yeah.
So like I sold Nintendo Switches at the time. That was really good. We sold PS5s as well. And then the funny thing was we sold swimming pools.
Swimming pools. That makes sense.
It was a big market of swimming pools because beaches were closed.
Right.
And we're in California and it was during the summer and people were trying to find ways to cool down.
I still can't believe they closed beaches.
Yeah, they closed beaches. And the funny thing was that because beaches were closed, people tried to find ways to swim indoors. I mean, in their houses. So they bought swimming pools like crazy.
Yeah.
They bought swimming pools like crazy. The small swimming pools, the huge swimming pools. And I was just like finding places where I can get these swimming pools from either Walmart or from Target. And then we would just sell it on eBay or sell it on OfferUp, which is a marketplace platform in the US. And it was doing fairly well. And I was very surprised because like that was basically like the peak of success during COVID, I guess, selling swimming pools. And then later on it moved on to like those like warm lamps that people put in restaurants. I just couldn't convince myself to really sell it because like I felt bad. Some people just buy toilet paper and they resell it as well, but like I just couldn't do that. It was like an ethical thing.
Yeah. So some things. Yeah.
If it's a want, I can sell it. If it's a need, it's hard for me to like really sell it because I feel like I'm a fucking asshole if I do that. Like if I start selling toilet paper, I'm like, dude, like I'm such an asshole. I wouldn't do that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so wait, so remind me. So when did you get back to Cambodia? What was the sort of
I
time?
think late November of 2021 was when I moved back to Cambodia. Yeah.
And then like at that time, I mean, we're also observing like a lot of the trends that were going on here, right? In the digital economy, or like, and a lot of people that, I mean, we had this, I mean, this explosion of like food delivery and online, well, not explosion, but like I'd say it definitely like shifted a lot of those companies, right? Like now 24 that like before were doing pretty well, but then that's literally the only way people could order.
Right.
So I think it had a big shift, and then also people like ordering clothes and other items online. Did you, when you got back, did you kind of observe that and then try to kind of go into that space?
I did.
Yeah.
So actually 2021 was probably the biggest year for the shoe side of the business because that was when like I really experienced like huge growth. But I think at the time 2021, I don't think Cambodia was like locked down like that, was it? I don't remember it being that locked down.
No, I remember. So I got here September 2020, and we got. I mean, March 2021 was the escape from soccer, right?
Right.
Where they had these people come, and that was like the first case of COVID in the country, and then I was actually locked down in my apartment building for it, like April, May, like
Oh
quite,
shit.
yeah, I got quite locked down.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when I say it, they're like, really? Like, but I was actually stuck in my apartment building for like nearly a whole month.
Right.
But then that was, and I think, but I remember, as I remember, by the end of like June, July, August, most of the lockdowns were kind of,
Chill.
were chill. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I remember like being coming back in 2021, it was fairly okay. Everything was kind of just recovering, but yeah, I think at that time, I think people really shifted towards online compared to like in person, and I think we gained the most success when it came to like just getting more traction online for either clothing or either shoes. But obviously, shoes was probably the bigger growth at the time, and yeah, I don't think I was very observant of the economy back then. I was just trying to adapt because, you know, I haven't been living in Cambodia for like the past like 4 years. And just to come back and try to like learn things all over again was, yeah, it was just like me adapting to it. Yeah.
Right. And how would you say, like, what's the journey look like? I mean, it's never a straight line up with starting anything.
Right.
What has been like, what have been some of the like early challenges with getting everything off the ground?
I mean, I kind of took a gamble when it came to the agency. The agency, it was my first time renting out an office space.
Yeah.
And to be completely fucking honest, I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know anything about
Yeah.
about doing marketing for people, and I never really understood the idea of marketing itself. I just did what I did, and I realized there's growth in there, and then I was like, oh, okay, like, oh, it's working. But if I were to like kind of take a step back, try to figure out, oh, like this is the strategy I did back then, this is what I did that worked. I never really looked at it like that. Was just consistently being consistent with my marketing, and I told myself like, yo, like first of all, I got to get out of the house and actually find an office space just so I can move like shoes and try to figure out the agency at the same time. And I was like, I found this spot that is fairly nice for like $500 a month. And I was like, okay, let's take a gamble. If I fuck this up, I lose a year's worth of rent. If I don't fuck this up, then I could probably make something out of it and hopefully like you know make an actual agency. So I adopted some offers from other agencies that I hired probably a few months prior just to figure out how the industry worked. And then I figured, okay, you know what? I'm going to try to cater an offer that I think would work best towards small businesses, and then try to see if that would work or not. And within the first month, I think we closed like 2 clients, and that was enough for me. That was enough for me because I was like, okay, this kind of works. Like this offer works. I just need to execute and be able to do good, and then hopefully like outsource the work to someone else. So within the first month, I think we tried it out with a few clients. Two clients at the time, and then it worked fair. It was okay. It was okay. I wouldn't say I was the best at it, but it was a start for me to figure out like.
And what was the like main offer that you were pitching to these clients?
It's like a monthly recurring thing where we do like certain amount of posters, certain amount of videos. We also run some ads for them, and just to see if it works or not. And you know, some people took the bait, and I was thankful that they did because I was able to learn from just these offers alone and how I can kind of like change it up to make sure like it works better for us as an agency.
Basically like a full stack for social media and just the content, like viral content, right? That's what
I wouldn't even say viral content. I would just say like content in general. So like poster designs, videos, short form videos. I was thinking that those two were components that would make a small business successful, is they needed the consistency to be able to have some posters, some videos, and then also run ads. Because a lot of businesses here, they don't actually do that. And they just, some of them even like just post stock photos and just run ads and that. And like, they just pray that it works, and it doesn't really work anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, maybe
the marketing space here, I feel like is very standardized. And like, if you do more unique content, you stand out relatively quickly.
Yeah, correct. So the market here it's I feel like it's fairly easy to compete against, especially like with not much creativity in the space at all. So that's why I feel like it's easy for us to stand out. But at the same time, I don't really think I can apply that to every single business that operates under our agency, because it's not. It requires a certain amount of input, especially as an owner, to be able to figure that out. But us as an agency, we can't always do that for you. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, back then, I was still trying to figure things out. I thought posters were going to do well. I thought videos were going to do well. And obviously, the first few months, I realized like some parts of it was was really just causing a lot of strain within the agency. And I just realized like I wanted to give up one part of the offering and just focus on one thing completely, just so we can specialize in that and be able to just push forward with that alone. So I decided that we're gonna get rid of posters, and then we're just gonna focus on video production alone, because I don't know, posters is just a drag to do.
And
Honestly.
it's all the editing, right?
It's
When
all the
you
editing.
send it back, and then they
Yeah,
send it.
yeah, and it's like,
yeah.
oh, I like some client will think like, oh, if I change this color or change this shit, it would definitely be like viral, and it's not the case anymore.
Right.
You know, posters don't really go viral like that, especially with the current state of the social media platforms.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, back then they probably did work much better, but now it's just like, you know, it's just there. I mean, posters do work. Especially if you have a clear offer, it does work. It works very well. But for the most part, like some people, when they talk about like designing posters, it's very generic, it's very boring, and it just has a lot, like some keywords here and there, and it doesn't really work. Which is why I realized like, okay, if poster production is taking way too long and it takes the equivalent amount as getting a video out, I might as well just focus on videos alone and just change my offer completely. So that's when we took a shift towards video production only, to focus on just catering our skills towards just video generation and nothing regarding posters.
Okay.
Because I realized it's more so just a waste of time for us, and I never wanted to do it again.
Right, and they're not. And then I feel like clients, like once they've given you the directive of the video, they're not going to ask you to like reshoot it a bunch of times.
Right. So we have ways where we kind of limit the amount the reshooting and stuff like that. Obviously, like it's just like we go in, we try to bulk shoot, and then we try to bulk edit at the same time. Obviously, I don't think we're gonna try to offer another reshoot, and that's just the way it is.
Right.
Yeah. So we try to limit the amount of issues that happen with video shooting to where it's effective for us and it's also effective for the client as well. Yeah.
And how many clients do you have today, 2025?
I can't answer that in public. Yeah.
What would be like, but has it grown a lot?
It has grown.
Yeah.
It has grown, but we're still trying to figure out a way where we can output effectively and efficiently. And so that's something where I'm working with my team to kind of discuss where we can improve our efficiency and also the quality, retain the quality at the same time. So I'm trying to scale in on the amount of people that are working with us, and at the same time we're trying to make sure that there's efficiency with what we do, and at the same time we are able to retain these clients. Yeah.
And what would you say the industry is that you've focused on for your clients? Is there any particular like?
I haven't narrowed it down yet. I wish I could. But I feel like in Cambodia, the niche for different businesses is quite small. So if we were to specialize in a specific industry, I feel like it would just be very detrimental to our revenue.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I would ideally want to specialize in just product businesses alone. I think we have some challenges when it comes to F&B, just because results aren't necessarily as traceable, and the way that people go to F&B places is something you can't track. With product businesses, people message, they buy through the platforms and stuff like that. But when it comes to F&B, we have a hard time trying to figure out like where these results come from. So that's probably our biggest challenge. But yeah, if I were to specialize, probably just specialize in product businesses, but I haven't really catered it down towards what specific product businesses we want to specialize in yet. Not yet. Yeah.
Okay. And what would you say looking out for the year ahead or so, what would you say your goals are for the rest of 2025 for the business?
I think we're gonna try to go into more higher production type of videos.
Okay.
Obviously, we are able to currently handle commercials, TVCs, higher production videos that require professional cameras and stuff like that. It's where we're able to add more creativity to it and not sacrifice quality at all. It's just that I'm still trying to figure out ways where we can work through it effectively. Obviously, when it comes to high production stuff, it's very straining on us. Like, have you ever been on like a video shooting set before? Like,
yeah, once or twice. Yeah, I mean it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It requires a lot of teams, and I'm learning about it just to figure out like what is an effective way to go about it. But it's very straining because like sometimes it goes from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and it's just like exhausting for people. So I'm trying to figure out where we can find a middle ground where it's effective for us. We can still output higher quality with higher creativity and not burn ourselves out. That's my biggest concern, working in the creative industry with creative people. Yeah.
Right. And what's it been like building, like you mentioned about like burning out, what's it been like building your team, like recruiting people into the business? keeping them around. That's one thing we always hear from founders here, that like, it's quite hard to retain really good people. Maybe there's a bit of jumping around that happens. Yeah.
I mean, I like to think that I'm a fairly chill boss.
Yeah.
Where like I like to think of things like when it comes to like my business, and when I hire people in, it's just like I like to focus on the results rather than like, things like come into work like 5-10 minutes late, stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I try not to focus on those things too much, and because I'm also someone who has never been in a 9 to 5 environment, I don't necessarily understand things that are corporate level
Right.
that much. Yeah, I just try to learn from my team to figure out like what is the best approach. But for now, I'm taking like a performance based approach where like I analyze them based on their performance and not like things like, oh, like when they're checking in, when they're checking out, stuff like that. Because I understand that being in the creative industry, you can't necessarily just put people in a box and just expect them to create. It sometimes like people burn out. Sometimes people need a breather. They have to go outside the office, relax a little bit just to be able to think.
Right.
And I try to be flexible wherever possible to be able to adapt to things like that, just to like reduce the amount of burnout that I see from my team.
Right. Is everyone in the office 5 days a week, or what's your?
9 to 5, Monday to
Yeah.
Friday. Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of how it works. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Obviously, there's some flexibility there because like I'm fairly chill. So
Yeah.
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 Sometimes people come in a bit late. I'm okay. Sometimes they leave early. I'm okay. As long as the output is still
Yeah.
like consistent, I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we were like COVID like swung that pendulum where people were like, oh, we can do remote, I can do like fully remote, or I'm going to do like 1 to 2 days a week in the office. But I think it's kind of shifted back now, and people
Yeah.
realize that. I think a lot of the people that are just stuck at home, like just by themselves, like they lose a lot of social skills. They
Right.
lose a lot of like mentorship. There is a lot of downside to it as well. But I think, I mean, it seems like at least the optimum that I'm seeing is like, it's like 3-4 days a week in the office, and as long as there's like trust amongst everyone.
Right.
But of course, for certain employees and for certain like
Industries.
industries, you kind of need that physical presence, right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I get pissed off because like, I see like people like slacking off and here and there, but like, like I try to balance it out. Obviously,
Right.
I don't think I'm like the perfect boss out there. I'm not the perfect guy when it comes to like leading a company. I'm still learning. Especially with no corporate background, it's kind of hard to figure things out, how things work properly. But we're actively trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, and just kind of adapting. Yeah.
Oh, and something that you also touched on earlier, you were mentioning about like how like the whole social media strategy has changed for a lot of companies. And I think, TikTok's obviously had like a big impact. Like I
Right.
think when I first got to Cambodia, it was like, everyone was obsessed with Facebook, right?
Right.
And I think it's kind of shifted more towards TikTok, maybe Instagram. So I'm just curious on like how you see that kind of the push and the ability for people to be able to build brands on specific platforms.
Well, like I said, if I were to start off fresh without any like followers, anything at all, and just start from zero, the biggest platform to grow on would obviously, especially if you don't have any cash, would be on TikTok, right? There's no other platform that offers any level of like reach that you would get from TikTok. So, for example, like let's say I push out 100 videos. Let's say I push out 100 random videos. I'll just create them at random, have different hooks here and there, have different types of content. Facebook obviously will not do well. Instagram, maybe it might do well, it might not, especially if you have a low following, it might not do well. But TikTok evaluates things in a more fair sense where like, okay, if this content is good, if people like to watch it till the end, then obviously they're going to push it out to the For You page. And that's something I see where a lot of people are utilizing towards their business, is where they're getting leads, they're getting customers straight off of TikTok onto
Right.
Facebook and Instagram, and they're not relying on Facebook ads anymore. They're not relying too much on Instagram ads. And I think it's also fair because a lot of people, they don't understand Facebook and Instagram ads that much. So to rely on TikTok alone is okay. It's good enough to where it'll generate you sales as long as you're consistent, as long as you're actively trying to, create new things and push out different types of content, and also work on the quality and the retention in each video. So it's less of a gamble for me to work with TikTok compared to anything else. But obviously, if you were to start off, I would obviously recommend all 3 platforms if possible. Yeah.
Yeah, for us, like we started off on Instagram. It was okay. I mean, the algorithm I think does get confused as to like where you are, given like where your followers are and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when we shifted over to TikTok, we also have the YouTube But YouTube's a bit complicated in Cambodia. Like there isn't quite like I don't think you can do ads for Cambodia or something. It's something a bit we haven't quite wrapped our head around it. But yeah, TikTok was we were amazed at how quickly you could grow like a substantial following on
Right.
TikTok.
So I mean, to be honest, it's supposed to be where platforms like Facebook and Instagram are supposed to have an algorithm similar to TikTok. You can see that internationally, where like Facebook and TikTok, like some creators are just outputting content there and they're getting viral. But I feel like it just doesn't work in Cambodia or in some certain regions yet.
Yeah.
They're just not pushing it out to the explorer or things like that. And I think it has something to do with just like the regional algorithm of things here.
Right.
But in TikTok, it's just pretty fair, straight out. So I think, yeah, that's where hopefully if it ever comes to like where Instagram and Facebook are pushing the algorithm to where it evaluates things fairly like TikTok, then I think we would see a lot more creators who are just jumping on, or more businesses jumping on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. But obviously you can't just rely on TikTok alone, because there's no way to effectively message on TikTok, and especially with Cambodia being like a country that is highly dependent on like, you know, social commerce. You need a reliable platform to communicate. So people funnel down from TikTok to Facebook and Instagram. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting. I think a lot of people like forget, but like, you know, in other countries, like, you know, most of your e-commerce happens on like these big platforms, right? Like an Amazon or an Alibaba. But in Cambodia, like we still don't have like one platform that people go to. Do you think that will happen, or do you think it will just remain like a social commerce kind of landscape where everyone's just on social media and then they're just buying via these sort of random web pages?
I think it's a hard shift for people to adapt. I think, like, you know, obviously, you know, we haven't adapted to Visa cards, and now that there's QR codes, we've adapted to that. It's just that I think people need to find something that's convenient to them. There are certain platforms that I think have done what you're talking about, but it doesn't have that much variety. I mean, there's one for groceries. I forgot what it's called, and there's one for like, you know, L192.
Yeah. L192.
So they have that, but there's obviously not that much variety, and it's also not as the range of products is not as much as like things like Lazada or Alibaba, things like that.
But
I think people just have a hard time adapting. I think they've learned to adapt to food delivery apps, but they haven't learned to adapt to different things yet. And they
like to also be. I feel like everyone wants to be able to like communicate with the person.
Yes,
that they're buying
they love to be able
from.
to communicate. So they love to just buy through communication instead of just like working directly with a platform. And I've tested this with a website before. I've created a CamboKicks website where we automatically generate prices for shoes. And I just realized that like it's hard for you to change the way that people are used to buying and selling. And I don't think I should try to convince people to do that alone. And if I were to do that alone, I don't think I would get the
you're going up against like a cultural problem.
Exactly.
To try and
Yeah.
solve
So it's like,
system.
it's the only way that it could work is if like you see big pushes from like these bigger guys,
Right.
Like let's say the ABA Bank or things like that, to be able to push like commerce onto like apps and stuff like that. But if not, I just don't see it happening for a very long time until like people will just like age and they learn to just use apps or websites. Yeah, I've learned to accept the fact that in Cambodia it is a social commerce culture, and I'm not going to try to change it. Yeah, but surprisingly, some things do work. Like our website for clothing, people do buy from there. People do buy from there, especially during drops. But I think it's also because it's a very small niche market where they're used to the idea.
And there's some exclusivity.
Yeah,
right? 'Cause you have
exclusivity.
drops,
so
right?
they need to go buy there, otherwise they're fucked. Things
Right.
like that.
Yeah. You won't be able to get it. Right.
Yeah, it's like it's sold out, you're done. Like it's fucked. Yeah.
Right.
But that's kind of how I see it. Maybe in certain markets it could happen, but for the general public, I don't see it happening for a very long time. And I've just learned to accept that. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk about is like, I mean, you mentioned about like creator economy.
Right.
At what point do you think someone like, you know, I mean, I think it's very trendy, right, these days for everyone to like want to be a creator.
Right.
At what point do you think people become like, does it become like a self-sustaining business? Like, is there like a threshold someone needs to cross in order to like, for this to be their main thing, and they can quit their 9 to 5 and they are a creator full time?
I think there's a way, and I've seen people done it, but it's something that I've chosen not to do. Obviously, you need to be consistent with your output, Think of it like think of yourself like a machine. Obviously, if you can, like, okay, let's say I can output 20 videos a month. Let's do that. Hopefully 10 of these videos I can get sponsorships. I just continue to output high quality videos. But at the same time, I don't believe that it's sustainable. I don't believe that it's an economy where, like, I see people like, I mean, you can quit your 9 to 5, but I wouldn't be happy with the amount of money that I get off being a creator and just like getting sponsorship videos and just talking about people's things and saying like, oh, this drink is great. Like, I love it. Like, I hate it. That's why I decided, like, the only way to sustain yourself in this creator economy is to not rely on sponsorships. And that's where I firmly believe that's the way to go. If you are able to leverage platforms like TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram and create a follower, a community around it, and you are able to just push things out, push sales onto your business, just funnel it down to your business, you would be able to sustain yourself much more than if you were to beg for sponsorships. And I fucking hate that because I decided, like, this year, like, I'm going to reduce the amount of sponsorships that I take because I just hate working with people who will, like, tell me what to say.
Right.
And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me that I'm not happy with it. But, like, some people they love to take jobs like that. It's fine with them. But for me, I just hate it. And I just feel like it's not sustainable for me to continue to do that and also, like, be someone who has an opinion that people can listen to.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't feel like it's sustainable for me. For most people, if you can, get to a point where you're outputting high quality videos, you can take up sponsorships as much as you want. But after a while, you kind of dry up. Like, okay, like, people aren't gonna sit there and watch your content because all of it's just sponsored content where you have something to say about anything, and you always have something positive to say without any, like, real opinions or real, like, identity about yourself. And I don't want to lose that about me.
But yeah, and so but the sustainable path, as I
Right.
understand, like, we have a company actually that we support in the Philippines that is kind of going in this direction.
Right.
And they basically say, yeah, I mean, being a content creator with sponsorship and the money that you get from the platforms is, like, not super sustainable. But
Right.
the shift that they observe is, like, people actually launching products or launching events and like that kind of thing where they're actually they're able to build, like, a direct channel to their community.
Right.
Is that what you're referring to? Like, kind of
Yeah,
that's what's sustainable?
I would probably say that. It's just like, if you're a creator and you're able to build a personal brand of yourself that is connected to a business, then it would do very well.
Yeah.
Because I've tested that for myself. When it comes to KDMV, I've tested myself for matcha. And it's doing surprisingly very well because, like, people are seeing that you're connected to a certain business. They trust it much more. They understand your journey. And if you can try to document it a little bit more, explain your struggles, explain what you're going through, it's much more interesting than if I were to just get something from someone and say some good things about it and just, like, expect people to be happy to watch it,
Right. It's your like personal product. So, I mean, I think one in this market that we've kind of observed or like that's come through is the guy Heng Basao, right?
Yeah.
And what do you remember what's the brand name?
It's called We Young.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like that's been a great, like, that's like something that I point to when people ask, what do you mean by, like, the merge between, like, being an influencer or being a creator and building your own brand.
Right. Yeah. Because the reality is, like if you are able to build your own product or build your own business and you have this mass following already, and why not leverage it for yourself? Why would you leverage it for someone else's stuff? Like,
why would you leverage it for Coca-Cola?
Yeah, like, if I can get 1 million views every single fucking video, why am I not putting that 1 million views to my own product? It's so many eyes on my product. People get to see it like immediately, and they can make the decision to support because they know me. It's much easier for me to do that than to promote someone else's product,
And then, of course, it's always, I mean, of course they've played a big role, but, like, the alcohol brands, right, have been a big part of it. But I think that's also shifting now where they're not able to do as much advertising, as I understand.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
So that maybe even will shift people more towards creating their own products. Have you thought about, I'm just curious, like, are there any agencies that, like, support people on that? Like
creating their own products?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think if they were to support someone in creating their own products, they would probably ask for, like, a equity within that business. Because it's hard for at least from what I know, I think it's quite hard for an agency to support fully on someone's, like, new product and help them market it completely, because I myself think that at a certain point they're gonna realize, like, it's not their own product, it's not their own thing, and if I were to I could maybe it's just selfish for me to say this, but like, for me, if I were to market someone's product successfully, if I look at it from that way, I feel like, oh, I would want a piece of the pie of that.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you were to think selfishly,
Or just be like a percent of the
yeah,
GMV.
percent of the revenue, percent of something, and I think a lot of people think in this way, where like if they've done something successfully for something, they would want a piece of pie of that. It's just that like as an agency, for you to be in the mentality where you think of something as your own baby and you do whatever you can to be able to market it successfully, it's very draining. It's very draining for you to do that alone. And if, let's say, I was to do that for 10 companies and like I realized like there's no equity in that, what's the point?
Right.
Yeah.
It's obviously getting the equity. Yeah, because even when they want to put their product, like we talk about this in the Philippines,
Right.
When they want to put their products on like Lazada, Lazada is charging like 7-8%,
Right.
Roughly. So you anyway end up giving some money to the platform, but
Right.
it's just if you want someone to help you build a more specialized product and channel that you can. But then you could also just launch your own like Shopify website.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
but then you need the logistics, right? And then
Right.
that's when. Yeah,
But at least they get to keep like 100% of the ownership.
Right.
They're not giving it out to anyone. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's just hard for you to for any agency to put themselves in a position where like this is their baby. They're gonna do whatever it takes to make it work.
Right.
Yeah. It's just not. Usually it's not the case. Yeah.
And in the time that you've launched this agency, have you seen a lot of new agencies be launched? Have you seen a lot of like churn? Are you seeing a new kind of breed of agency come through? What
No.
have you kind of observed in the
I
4
haven't
years?
seen many agencies at all. I feel like it's just like older agencies learning to adapt.
Yeah.
It's like older agencies learning to adapt, and when it comes to new agencies, there's very few. I feel like there's very few. It's just that within the years of 2020 to 2024, there's like a big shift towards videos, and older agencies they're focused more on like design. They're focused more on posters. They're focused more on these other things that used to work back in the day, but it doesn't work the same now. So they are learning to adapt to that by creating high quality videos, by finding ways to create short form videos and offering that towards the public. But when it comes to newer agencies, I haven't seen many at all. I've seen like maybe one or two who are similar to mine, where they focus on short form, but anything else, not really, not at all. Yeah, it's a very niched industry, I feel like. Yeah.
What would you say? What would you say are like some of your big kind of inspiration sources, like some of the people that you look up to, that you get advice from, that help you on this kind of journey to being a founder, doing entrepreneurship, all that kind of thing?
I think it's my mom.
Your mom?
Yeah, it's my mom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like she's been there for me since the start. Not I wouldn't say she supported me like in a financial way. But she has done a lot in terms of helping me out with the operations, especially in the early days. She's helped out with everything. And I've a lot of the things that I did from when it comes to shoes, when it comes to clothing, she has been the backbone of it from the start, where she kind of gives advice. She kind of teaches me about certain things, because she was also a small business owner, and she started off in 2015 before I started, and that's kind of where I got the idea that I should start my own. And ever since then, like certain things like logistics wise, at the time there was no things like gelatin stuff. We had to have our own delivery driver at the time, and I asked my mom to kind of help me out with the delivery things, because she had her own personal delivery driver. So we got the help of her for that. And when I was in the US, obviously I had to ship shoes out to Cambodia, and me and my brothers we're all in the US. So back then my mom kind of also helped out during that time to kind of just help me arrange the deliveries for people. So I don't think I would be successful right now if it wasn't for her.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear. Yeah, I also have a very supportive mum who really pushes me to like just continue on the journey, and whenever it's getting a bit hard, she'll step in and give you that reassurance that you need. Yeah. And what about your brother? Your brother is also, you guys are in business together basically since
I think
the get-go.
probably the second people. Well, there's my mom, there's my dad, and there's also my brothers. We're also very highly competitive against each other, because like we're.
Well, it's good you're
I have
doing
a twin.
the same business.
I have a twin, and he's mostly like an asshole to me sometimes. But we push each other. We push each other a lot. We're very competitive. Like like we're always trying to see who's doing better than the other. Like in terms of oh, I did this marketing, I'm better than you. Like, oh, we're always competitive like that. We're always petty. We're very fucking petty.
I think it's when, I mean, I have a lot of overlap on this, because I think especially when you're the same age. Funny enough, I'm actually a triplet. So
you're a triplet?
Yeah.
No fucking way. Really?
Yeah. I'm a triplet. So
Do they all look the same or?
kind of,
Oh
yeah.
shit.
So I have two sisters.
Oh.
Yeah. So when we've gone through everything together,
Yeah.
and so it's that constant like competitiveness of
Competitive,
like,
yeah.
okay, we did the exams at the same time, went to university at the same time, got our first job at the same time. Like, so you're always being compared, but it can be unhealthy
It
competition.
is. It is
But sometimes
unhealthy.
it's very healthy.
But I feel like
Yeah.
if it weren't for that type of competition, I also wouldn't be where I'm at right now.
Right.
Yeah, because I think we kind of push ourselves to see like, oh, you know what? At least we're competing against each other, and then we realize, oh, like everyone else is shit. Like I'd rather compete with you. You know,
Yeah.
it's like that. But yeah, I also have an older brother who is probably like a year and a half apart from me. He also helped push us like back in my early days as well. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, because the age gap is so small, like we are also very competitive against each other, and we also helped each other out during COVID as well. When things were kind of tough, we try to help each other like sell PS5s and shit. Yeah, that was a good time. Yeah.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. And is there like, but do you have like complementary skill sets in the business, or like
We
is
do.
it? Yeah,
We
that's
do.
cool.
We do because my twin brother, he's shit in operations. He's like garbage in it, and like I have to help with that part, and also the ad side I kind of take over. When it comes to design, I trust his ability to be able to create. So I'm not gonna try like put my claws in there and try to like
Right.
argue with him, because obviously when you're so competitive with each other, you argue over the dumbest shit.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that the more I try to claw in and something that he knows he's good at, we argue about dumb shit. So
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna do it.
Right.
Yeah, so I'll leave whatever he thinks is best for him. I'll leave whatever he knows he's good at to him, and whatever I'm good at, I'll handle on my end.
That's
kind
great.
of how it works.
That's
because
really
because
important.
we know to a point like if we continue to step over each other's boundaries, we're just gonna fucking argue. Yeah, it's kind of tough.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a key thing in the
Yeah.
in the startup journey, is just knowing what like where people can focus and where not to kind of patronize or kind of step on toes, right? And
Yeah.
not get in the way of
Yeah, I mean we do it sometimes, but it's
Yeah.
like we try to reduce it as much as possible just to keep things healthy,
Right.
Yeah, but like, we take some jabs here and there,
Yeah,
just for
yeah.
fun. But yeah, we've learned not to do that too much now, I guess. Yeah.
Right. The last thing I just wanted to talk to you about, because obviously we're sitting doing a podcast.
Yeah.
You've also started a podcast, so
Right.
tell the audience a bit more about that and like what that journey's been like. You've had some really cool guests so far, so it'd be great to know.
We call it the KDMV podcast. It's me, my brother, and a special guest. Obviously, like I haven't really pinpointed what the podcast is really about. It's just like we're
That's
trying
the
to
best- that's
that's
the
the
best
best thing,
kind.
yeah.
That's the best
But it's
kind.
like we're trying to figure out like who we want to interview, who we want to talk to, and if we can get this person on a podcast, I'm gonna ask him, bombard him with whatever questions I have regarding his business, regarding whatever he wants,
Right.
whatever he's done, and try to learn from him
Right.
and see what I can do when it comes to my entrepreneurship journey. Because I feel like most of the guests I've had so far, I've learned a lot of things from them, and I want to continue that to where like I'm always interviewing people who I find super fucking interesting, who I find like I really want to learn from this guy, and just get them on a podcast, see what they have to say, see what I can learn from them. That's kind of the trajectory of that right now, and hopefully it continues that way. It's just that it's very hard to find like really good guests that we really want to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah, we've also felt that like it can't feel like a chore. Like you have to really want to have the right person on, and you want to be like you show up with as much energy as possible.
Yeah.
And it's not just ticking on, but yeah, I think one thing that we also kind of noticed, like since we started this, like we had this thing that we were looking at where it was like the first 50 episodes is just learning how to do it. The second 50 is like building your kind of style.
Right.
And then the last 50, or like let's say 100 to 150 is like actually growing the audience.
Right.
And it's crazy. Like some of the best podcasts out there, like you look at like let's just say Joe Rogan, for example, like he didn't really know at all what he was doing. He said he didn't really even get any proper listeners
Right.
until episode 500.
Oh shit!
So
Really?
it's like that consistency,
Right.
like to just keep going and just keep, because actually there's just, if you think about it, there's very few people that have actually done more than 100 podcasts.
Right.
Like I think it's something like 0.001% or whatever. So eventually you're going to get good at it, right?
Right.
like it's going to take you a bit of time, but I'd say most people, I mean, like you say with content, it's just all about the consistency and just
Right.
keep showing up, keep getting guests. But
Right.
it's we've also had like a lot of kind of, we like for instance, we just like took a long break, but it's like it was good because it kind of gave us time to reflect and regain the energy, and just like, and then kind of change the kind of style and the format and all that kind of thing. So I think, yeah, it's good. It's good to just to keep taking breaks and then refining your passion for doing it and why you're doing it.
Right. Yeah, because I think we also took like 3-4 months off of just podcasting because we just couldn't nail the guest. You know, like I tried so hard to just like I wanted to get the brown founder. I want to get the brown founder, but like I reached out to one guy, he ignored us. So to be able to finally get him on, that's a great thing to feel.
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna try to output more consistently within the next few months. Hopefully one podcast a month is good for me.
This is the other thing. Like I think everyone used to say, okay, you got to do one every week. No,
I'd be burnt out. I'd be burnt out because like I do the editing for all the podcasts and I'm like, dude, I can't. Yeah, it fucks me up. But now that we have like bots and stuff where it just like auto cuts for you and shit like that, it's
with the easier. AI stuff is pretty has helped us a lot as well. But I follow this guy. I think my favorite podcaster, this guy called Lex Fridman. I mean, he's a bit dry, but he like interviews like he'll do like 6, 7, 8 hours. He always wears the same outfit. Right. He always does physical. He'll never do online.
Right.
But what I noticed about him recently is like he was doing like kind of 3 a month or 4 a month.
Yeah.
And then now I think he's just shifted to like do 1 to 2 a month. But they're like he's so intense and like he's so he's like preparing like 1 to 2 weeks for that. Like he's about to do the Indian Prime Minister.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, he had like the current president of the US, Donald Trump, on. He's had all these kind of fascinating characters, but that's kind of what we lean towards as well. It's like at least like try and do maybe 2 a month.
Yeah,
and really focus on those 2 being like really good quality, and that's enough.
Yeah. I try not to sacrifice quality too much. I realize the more I try to output, the more consistency I try to output, I would sacrifice quality. So there's always a medium where you try to reach for. Yeah, I try to balance that as much as possible. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. And just our last question that we have liked to ask all our guests is if there's any piece of advice that sort of comes up that would be your like most important one that's like kind of kept going throughout life for you. What would you say that one is that you just keep coming back to?
I don't know. This is like more like a personal philosophy thing where like, you know, I've done this for all my businesses, but it's like, as long as you have the idea, execute on it and figure it out later. You don't have to know all the things that you are trying to figure out yet. I've done this for my agency where like I had no clue what the fuck I was doing from the beginning when it comes to marketing to trying to figure out what to do now. And I think we've done pretty well so far. And I've also done this for like matcha recently where like I have no fucking clue about matcha. I just like saw it and I was like, oh, you know, girls like it. I want to try to test out.
Girls like matcha.
Girls love matcha. Girls love matcha. And it's like it's a predominantly female audience. And I'm like, if I can get into this industry, like I know how to market to women.
Yeah.
And that's like the biggest market ever. So I was
matcha and Pilates.
Matcha and Pilates, yes. It's a combination. People offer that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, right.
And like I was like, you know, like let me try to figure that out and see what happens. I had no fucking clue about what I was doing when it came to matcha. I was just trying to reach out, email some people, see what they could do. And we found one that really clicked and I was like, okay, let's try it out. So I just bulk ordered some shit, designed some shit and just market it, see what happens.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a bit trickier because you're a male and you're trying to market to a female audience. It's not as easy as like if you were a female. So it's like, yeah, you know, I tried and I think it's taking off pretty okay now. It's doing some traction. So I think. So
you just sell the physical matcha?
We sell it in tins.
Yeah.
But we also wholesale to cafes now. So I'm trying to find ways to diversify that business a bit more, and it's doing pretty well so far. It's actually very interesting how the market works, and I feel like it's a very scalable business. So I'm gonna.
Where do you buy matcha from?
Japan.
It's all from Japan.
All from Japan. So one's from our tins are from Uji Kyoto, and then our cafe matcha is from Shizuoka.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to check. I do actually recently. I've got more into it, like as a alternative to coffee, right? Like it just kind of keeps you a bit more chill.
Yeah.
Throughout the day.
Yeah. All the white girls love matcha too.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a growing industry. It's so in demand that like tea farms are just selling out instantly. It's like a whole like shortage right now. So it's crazy. But yeah, it's very interesting. And I take this approach wherever I want to start something. If I could have the initial idea of what I want to do, I study some competitors and then I just initiate on it with no clue on how to run it. I think that's the fun part because in Cambodia, the market is so, I would say it's not as competitive as any other.
It's not. I think that the number one thing is execution. Like
it's not.
Ideas don't really matter.
Yeah, it's not because like the level of I'm not trying to shit on my own people, but like the level of creativity that you see in this space is not that much.
Right.
And for you to stand out, it's very easy. It's fairly simple.
Right.
As long as you have an idea, as long as you can think slightly outside the box, you can make it work.
And you can execute, right?
Yeah,
So
and you can execute. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You can execute. And in this industry, in this day and age right now, where you're not even reliant on like having a physical location and you can market yourself digitally, you could pretty much market for $0.
Right.
Yeah. So why not? Why not take the risk? There's little to no risk, and there's much more upside.
Right.
So why not?
Right. Well, great. On that note, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us today. Really learned a lot, and excited for your journey ahead.
Of course. Thank you for having me.